Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will use ratios to find unknown amounts. So we're going to start by using equivalent ratios. So you've heard about equivalent fractions. Remember, you have two fractions that are equivalent if what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So for example, we remember a half and 5/10 are exactly the same number. Why are they the same number? Well, because I times the top by 5 and I also times the bottom by 5. What I did to the top, I also did to the bottom. So there's a very similar rule for ratios, except we don't talk about top and bottom, we talk about first and second numbers, or left and right numbers. So two ratios will be the same if you've times the first number, the number on the left, by the same thing that you have times the number on the right by. Okay, so let's use this to find unknown numbers. So 5 to 8 equals something to 24. So let's look at what we did to the second number. What I did here was times by 3 to go from 8 to 24. So if these two ratios are equivalent, I must also times the first number by 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. That's the number that goes in the box. So what about this one here? Well, I want to find what number goes here. So we're going to start at the other ratio, the one that doesn't have the unknown. So to go from 40 to 10, I have divided by 4. So if I have divided the second number by 4, I must divide the first numbers by 4. I must divide the numbers on the left by 4. So I go 28 divided by 4, and that gives me 7. So let's try this one here. 32 to 10 equals 48 to something. So this is not an easy one. To go from 32 to 48, you can't multiply by a whole number. The astute of you will see that I actually times by 1.5. So I need to times 10 by 1.5, and that's fine. But what we might do is simplify this ratio. So 32 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So I'm going to divide 32 by 2 and 10 by 2. This is going to make it a little easier for me. So now it's clear what to do. To go from 16 to 48, I times by 3. So that means I have to times the second number in the ratio by 3, and I get 15. All right, let's use this to actually solve some problems now. So let's try this one. Say the school law requires that when you go on a school excursion, the ratio of teachers to students must be no more than 32 to 1. So if 160 students go on an excursion, how many teachers are required? That's basically what the question is saying. So we're saying, students first in the ratio to teachers needs to be 32 to 1 or less. You can't have 33 students for every teacher. That's not allowed. But 31 students, for example, that would be fine. That's what it means by the ratio must be no more than 32 to 1. So we're told in this question 160 go on the excursion. So what we're essentially saying, there are 160 students. How many teachers do we need? So I want these two ratios to be equal. So 32 to 160, I actually multiply by 5. Now, if you didn't see that, just add up 32 until you get to 160. 32, 64, 96, 128, 160. So if I times the number on the left by 5, I must also times the number on the right of the ratio by 5. 1 times 5 is obviously 5. 32 to 1 is exactly the same ratio as 160 to 5. So that means that you would need 5 teachers to go on this excursion. That would ensure the ratio of students to teachers is still 32 to 1. All right, let's now look at dividing quantities in a ratio. So when you're given a quantity and you want to divide in a given ratio, follow these 3 steps. Find the number of parts, which you do by adding up all the numbers in the ratio. Secondly, find the value of one part. And third, multiply it by each number in the ratio. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's look at a question. So Canberra Raiders have a win-loss ratio of 4-3, 21 matches. How many matches have they won? So what we're essentially saying is we want to divide 21 in the ratio 4-3. So remember that when you have a ratio, each of these numbers represents parts. It's like you can divide their season into 7 parts. 4 of those parts are the games they won. 3 of those parts are the games they lost. So here there are 7 parts in total because 4 plus 3 is equal to 7. So if 7 parts is equal to 21, each part is going to be worth 21 over 7, which is 3. Each part represents 3 games. We're dividing their season into 7 parts, and each of those parts represents 3 matches. So if each part is worth 3, then that means 4 parts is worth 12 and 3 parts is worth 9. So they have won 12 matches and they've also lost 9. That's how you divide a quantity in a given ratio. Let's look at a slightly harder question. So James contributed 5 hours to a project, Daniel 3 hours. They won $400 and divide their prize according to the number of hours contributed. How much money does each person receive? Well, in terms of the hours contributed, James to Daniel was 5-3. So this question is really asking us to divide 400 in the ratio 5-3. We're going to do it exactly the same as in the previous question. So first step, add the numbers in the ratio. 5 plus 3 is 8. There are 8 parts in total. This question is asking us to divide 400 into 8 equal parts. James will get 5 of those parts and Daniel will get 5 of those parts. So to figure out how much money each person receives, we need to know what is the value of one part. So 400 divided by 8 is 50. If 8 parts is $400, 1 part is $50. So now all I do, the third step, is I just multiply each number in the ratio by the value of 1 part. So 5 times 50 is 250, and 3 times 50 is 150. So James gets 250, Daniel gets 150. Notice that these two numbers add up to $400. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.